This is Terrence Archer, Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you from an article I read from The Atlantic. It's kind of an op-ed, but it just really shows you where the state that we're living in and how affordability is just becoming so far out the reach for the average person. And I think this particular author, Annie Lowry, has a very good point here. She just goes through a number of different issues that's facing where we're at currently standing. Definitely worth your attention. I'm going to put a link inside the description, as I always mention. We'll start here. The Great Affordability Crisis Breaking America. In one of the best decades the American economy has ever recorded, families were bled dry. The title catches my attention, as well as I always mention. I'm going to dive right in. In the 2010, the national unemployment rate dropped from a high of 9.9% to its current rate of just 3.5%. The economy expanded each and every year. Wages picked up for some high-income workers as soon as the Great Recession ended, and picked up for lower-income workers in the second half of the decade. America's confidence in the economy hit its highest point since 2000, right before the dot-com bubble burst. The headline economic numbers look good, if not great. But beyond the headline economic numbers, a multifarious and strangely invisible economic crisis metastasized. Let's call it the Great Affordability Crisis. The crisis involved not just what families earned, but the other half of the ledger too, how they spent their earnings. In one of the best decades the American economy has ever recorded, families were bled dry by landlords, hospital administrators, university bursars, and child care centers. For millions, a roaring economy felt precarious or downright terrible. Viewing the economy through a cost of living paradigm helps explain why roughly 2 in 5 American adults would struggle to come up with $400 in an emergency so many years after the Great Recession ended. It helps explain why 1 in 5 adults is unable to pay the current month's bills in full, and demonstrates why a surprise furnace repair bill, parking ticket, court fee, or medical expense remains ruinous for so many American families, despite all the wealth this country has generated. Fully 1 in 3 households is classified as financially fragile. And this is just the state of where we're in, and we've been given this particular rosy picture for the last 10 decades, and prices continue to skyrocket. And I really like what she's doing here, is just explaining the sentiment and just pointing out to the numbers and the facts. Along with the rise of inequality, the slowdown of productivity, growth, and the shrinking of the middle class, the spiraling cost of living has become a facet of American economic life. It is a crisis amenable to policy solutions at the state, local, and federal levels, with all of the 2020 candidates, President Donald Trump included, teasing or pushing sweeping solutions for the problem. But absent those solutions, it looks certain to get worse for the foreseeable future, leaving households fragile, exacerbating the country's inequality, slowing down growth, smothering productivity, and putting families' dreams of security out of reach. The price of housing represents the most acute part of this crisis. In metro areas such as the Bay Area, Seattle, and Boston, severe supply shortages have led to soaring prices, and millions of low and middle income families are no longer able to purchase centrally located homes. The median asking price for a single-family home in South San Francisco has reached $1.6 million. Even with today's low interest rates, that would require a monthly mortgage payment of roughly $6,000, assuming that a family puts down the standard 20%. In Manhattan, listings for sale now ask an average of nearly $1,800 per square foot. It's ridiculous, but it's the truth. The housing cost crisis in the Bay Area and New York might be the country's most obscene, but the problem is national, driven by a combination of stagnant wages, restrictive building codes, and underinvestment in construction, among other trends. Home prices are rising faster than wages in roughly 80% of American metro regions. In 2018, housing affordability declined in every one of the 160 urban areas analyzed by the National Association of Realtors, save for Decatur, Illinois. Rising prices and housing shortages are squeezing families in Reno, Minneapolis, and Phoenix. The problem now even extends to rural areas where income growth has lagged in a post-recession period. A recent report by the Pew Charitable Trust found sizable increases in the number of households spending half or more of their income on housing in rural counties across the country. The housing crisis is hitting Bertie County, North Carolina, and Iron County, Texas, too. One central effect of the housing cost crisis has been to turn the United States into a country of renters. The ownership rate has fallen from a peak of nearly 70% in the mid-aughts to under 65% today. The number are more acute for millennials, whose home ownership rate is 8 percentage points lower than that of their parents at the same age. Unable to buy roughly 3.5 million younger families have kept renting, delaying the millennial and Gen X cohorts' wealth accumulation, thus co-signing into worse net worth trajectories for the rest of their lives. And renting for many families is not affordable either. Nearly half of the renters are facing uncomfortable monthly bills, and the cost of renting has risen faster than renters' incomes for a full 20 years now. The cost of living crisis extends beyond housing. Healthcare costs are exorbitant too. Americans pay roughly twice as much for insurance and medical services to do citizens of other wealthy countries, but they do not have better outcomes. In the post-recession period, premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs in general just keep rising, eating away at families' budgets, casting millions into debt, and co-signing millions more to bankruptcy. The cost burden of health coverage climbed through the 2010s, just from 2010 to 2016. Family private insurance premiums jumped 28% to $17,710, while median household incomes rose less than 20%. That meant less take-home pay for workers. Deductibles, what a family has to fork over before insurance kicks in, also soared. From 2010 to 2016, the share of employees in health plans with deductible jumped from 78% to 85%. And the average annual deductible went from less than $2,000 to more than $3,000. The country's insurance premiums and out-of-pocket health cost burdens are just very, very high, including for people with publicly subsidized or public coverage. The average person on Medicare spends $5,460 on health care beyond what they pay for insurance every year. The average person with Medicaid forks over nearly half that. No wonder 2 in 3 bankruptcies are related to medical issues, and nearly 140 million American adults report medical financial hardship each and every year. Next up is the student loan debt, $1 trillion sum stone placed on young adults' backs, or to be more accurate, the 1.4 trillion stone is up to actually going to 1.7, up 6% over the year and a 116% in the decade. Student loan debt is now a bigger burden for households than car loans or credit card debt. Half the students now take on loans of one kind or another to try a higher ed degree, and outstanding debts typically total $20,000 to $25,000, requiring monthly payments of $200 to $300. Though, of course, many students owe much more. Nearly 50 million adults are stuck working off their educational debt loads, including 1 in 3 adults in their 20s, erasing the college wealth premium for young Americans and eroding the college earnings premium. It's changing the way things. I've done videos in the past about looking again at the value we place on this college education if it's not doing what it's supposed to do and giving you a decent wage or even able to pay it back. Family child care spending on daycare, nannies, and other direct care services for kids increased by 2,000% in the past 4 decades, and families now commonly spend $15,000 to $26,000 a year to have someone watch their kid. Damn. Such care is grossly unaffordable for low-income parents in metro areas across the country, causing many people to drop out of the labor force. But 1 in 4 American mothers return to work within 2 weeks of giving birth. So heavy are the costs and burdens of living in this country. The whole system is broken. The government has set a benchmark that low-income families should not spend more than 7% of their income on child care. But child care is generally the single biggest line item on young families' budgets, bigger than rent or mortgage payments. Putting a kid in daycare costs 18% of annual income in California. Home-based options equal 14% of family income in Nebraska. Having infant and professional care in the District of Columbia costs more than most poor families earn. It all adds up, and it all subtracts from families' well-being. The price tags for tuition and fees at colleges and universities have risen twice as fast as wages, if not more, in recent years. Rental costs are outpacing wage gains by a percentage point or more a year. Healthcare costs have grown twice as fast as wages workers, and childcare costs have exploded. These cost pressures are particularly acute on young Americans who have seen worse employment prospects and smaller raises than their older counterparts. The efforts are wide-ranging. High costs of preventing workers from moving to high-productive cities, thus smothering the country's economic vibrancy and putting a drag on its GDP. Economists have estimated that GDP would be as much as 10% bigger if more workers could afford to live in places like San Jose and Boston. High costs are forcing families to delay getting married and having fewer children and putting the dream of owning a home on a reach. She also gives different links here, and then go to those now, but just worth your time to take a look at them. What is perhaps most frustrating is the great affordable crisis is amenable to more policy solutions one of most other rich countries adopted decades ago. Developed economies, childcare, early education, higher education are public goods and do not require high interest rate debts or endless scrambling by exhausted young parents to procure. Other wealthy countries have public health systems that cost everybody at far lower costs, whether through socialized or private models. And numerous proposals would transform residential construction in this country, including one that just failed in California's legislature. But the great affordability crisis hides in plain sight, obvious to households but unmentioned in the country's headline economic numbers. It persists even as President Donald Trump rightly praises the country's growth, low unemployment rate, and rising household incomes. And though there are many nationwide policies that could end the crisis, they all seem unlikely to pass through the country's broken Congress. The brightest glimmer of hope lies in the housing and health care policy by individual states, but it's still a dim glimmer. The crisis looks sure to stay with us for the coming decade, whatever recessions or expansions it may hold. I think she did a well-placed article here. Worth your time, a little lengthy, but man, it's just packed full of just facts. And, I've talked so much about this channel about doing things differently, linking things differently, just putting yourself in a mindset. But she really calls out why that's so pertinent, that you need to do things differently and just operate in a different fashion. Definitely worth your time. Put a link inside the description, as I mentioned. This video has been any value to you, please subscribe. Hang your head. If you're one of the fortunate people that don't have to struggle through these particular times and not having the things that she outlined here, you count yourself lucky. But for the most people, this is something that really rings true. If this video has been any value, please subscribe, leave some comments, hit the like button, hit the bell for some new videos, and until my next video, I'm out.